So, are you racing Ironman Cozumel this year? If so, this is the video for you because in it you get a chance to listen to two very experienced coaches and a local coach from the United States has actually raced it twice and been and spectated and helped their athletes there another time. So she knows the course inside out. So this is the course view. We're going to go through the swim, the bike, the specific transitions to Cozumel, and the run. So sit down and get a cup of coffee because this is going to be really useful. Or you can watch it on the turbo. So, quick intro about ourselves. My name is Coach Steve or Stephen Moody. I'm based in Dublin, Ireland. I'm a coach and an athlete of over 25 years experience. And I'm trying to break into the YouTube game when I'm trying to do these race videos where I get to interview really cool people like Karen Weatherby, who I'm going to introduce now, who know all the courses that I haven't gone to yet, but I'm dying to. Karen, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Steve.
So, do you want to tell the guys a little bit about your coaching experience and specifically about Cozumel, as in you've been there a couple of times now?
Sure. So I've been doing triathlons for about 24 years now, and I've been coaching for 14. And I've done Cozumel twice, 2013 and 2021. And I actually went there in 2012 to support an athlete one time as well.
Great. So you know it well. So we're going to completely tap into that brain of yourself and get all the info out for these athletes who are a bit nervous about what is meant to be a very beautiful race, and you can tell us all about that. So starting off, actually a little bit about logistics. Karen, where would you recommend that like people talk about flying into Cancun or Cozumel? What's your take on that? What did you do?
Well, I would recommend flying into Cozumel. Some people may save a little money flying into Cancun, but then you have to take a ferry over to Cozumel. And there have been times when the water is too rough, and so they stop the ferries. The ferries don't run. And
Right.
actually, sometimes leading up to the race, the water is rough and they won't let scuba divers in there, or the practice swim might be canceled. But so to be on the safe side, I would fly into Cozumel. And I'd also recommend staying at one of the host hotels. There's many because they will have shuttles that are convenient, and they'll also have bike support there usually.
Yeah. No,
So I'd stay in Cozumel.
that's a great tip as well, because as we're going to see as we go through the video, it is quite one of the more logistically complex Ironman that I've looked at. It does look beautiful, but there's split transition. There's, as you said, getting from the mainland to the island, and there's all sorts of consideration. So that's a brilliant tip, and also I back you on the staying in the local hotels. The people always worry if you go with the partner hotels, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but you do get value out of it. As you said, there's on-site bike mechanics. They know all about triathletes. They'll have the breakfast on at the right hour in the morning. They'll have the shuttle buses. They'll know information. So I'm with you on staying in the hotel. I'm always happy to spend a couple more dollars, but you know what? For peace of mind, you've trained for this thing for 6, 9 months. Well, it's a better way forward.
Yeah,
So
and it is really a beautiful venue. A lot of people will go there and their family will come and they'll vacation afterwards. It really is a beautiful venue.
did you stay for a couple of days after your race, or and did you was it a racecation for you?
Well, I'm usually ready to go home a couple days after.
That's true. Okay. Well, maybe as I said, if I have to go all the way from Ireland, I'll definitely take a couple of days, or maybe do a bit of Cancun. But
Yes.
again, on the agenda, and the more of these reviews I do, the more my bucket list grows. So let's drop straight into the actual venue. I pulled this from the athlete guide because I think it's a great little intro to the what will be people's race days, and we'll talk about the race timetable towards the end of the session, but we'll talk about the actual course specifics. Um, this is where the swim start your swim start will be, but also this really highlights the fact that what your flow in will be in the morning, where you drop off your white clothes bag. That's the bag you'll want to change into afterwards, and then you'll head to what is the corrals, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, where you self-seed, and this is where you'll line up, and this is where you enter into the water. And I'm going to hand over to Karen because she knows this way better than I do. So talk us through a little bit of the swim course. It looks simple enough, or anything peculiar about it? Wetsuit legal, good water quality.
Yeah, and I'll maybe back up a little bit. So you actually and start at the finish. So Chalk Park is where the practice swim is, and
Okay.
that's usually on Saturday, and that's where you'll finish. But the morning of the race, and you need to give yourself plenty of time to get there because you'll go to the shuttles will take you to Chalk, and then you'll take another shuttle where they will bus you up to the marina there. Yes. And it takes a while to get up there and to get everybody on the bus, and it can be kind of chaotic. So just give yourself plenty of time. Um, and kind of also before I talk about the swim course specifically, um, T1 at Chalkanob Park there, the bikes are they're not in the usual like specific rows like you typically see at an Ironman. There's kind of a lot of feeders.
Okay.
And so it's important when you drop your bike off to go from the swim exit to the fastest way to get to your bike because I've seen a lot of people running around forgetting where their bike is.
Okay. And so it's not numbered racks, or it is like, or
It
you,
is numbered racks, but like there may be a row over there, a row over there, a row
oh,
behind the trees over there. It depends, on how they lay it out and the number of athletes that they have.
okay.
I'll say that the race is usually around 1,400 to 1,600 people, but right after COVID, they allowed 2,700. So it was even more chaotic. But it's usually 1,000 to 1,700
Yeah, okay.
people.
All right, but their layout system isn't exactly a grid system like you Americans. It's a little bit more creative, shall we say.
Yes, it is creative.
Brilliant.
Um, yeah, what else was I going to say? Yeah, the water temp, it's usually around 80 to 82 degrees. So it's always been non-wetsuit as far as I know. If it's above 80, and you can optionally wear a wetsuit if it's below 83, but then you wouldn't be well eligible for awards. And I don't think I saw people wearing wetsuits. And if you opt for that, you have to start at the back too.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
Um,
It's a
but
bit of a
swims,
downside to it. But the water temp is nice, as you said, and all the rest. And
it's nice. And most people are wearing swim skins.
yeah,
And it also should be pointed out that in non-wetsuit, you can't wear compression calves.
yes,
You can't have anything below your knees. You can now have, swim skins up, on your sleeves,
yeah.
where before you used to just have sleeveless. You can have sleeves now.
Okay.
Um, the water is beautiful. It's you can see the bottom the whole time. You can see all these little fish down there.
Ah,
You
great.
you kind of get distracted a little bit and have to remember that you are racing. And one time when I did it, there was actually a photographer down there taking pictures.
Oh, like the classic Kona picture. Like, that. Oh, that's
Yes,
fantastic. I hope you waved.
exactly. And so it's a seated start, so you self-seed.
Okay.
And it's a very fast swim because that long stretch there that you see, that's totally down current.
Even with
So
non-wetsuit, it's still a fast swim.
it's very fast.
Lovely.
The pros will do it in about anywhere from 42 to 45 minutes.
Nice.
And a lot of people will do it in less than an hour. Um, so it's pretty straightforward. When you get in the water, you go out about 100 meters and then you take that left where you see the red buoy there. You go all the way down and then you just go past the pier and take another left and then a left into the swim exit. So it's very straightforward. There's plenty of room. It's a very pleasant swim.
Is there,
It's never been rough that when I've been there, but one year it was rough and the swim did get canceled, but that's a rarity, I think.
and sighting wouldn't be an issue. It's a straight shot down as well, as long as you're kind of keeping some way. parallel to the shore, you're not going to go wrong, are you?
Right. Sighting is not an issue. I've never had any problems with jellyfish. Um, people, couple people said they thought they got bit by, and maybe it was, I guess they call them sleeve lice instead
Okay.
of a jellyfish, but I've never had a problem with that. And you do need the marina safe sunscreen like you would need for Kona.
Okay.
I think that's what they call it,
Yeah,
or
no,
marine friendly
oh,
sunscreen.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, and there is a morning close drop. So when the shuttle drops you off at the marina, and there's kind of a lot of time between when you arrive at Chalkanob, take the shuttle before you get in the water. So it's good to have, some nutrition and water with you,
Great tip.
because a lot of time has kind of passed.
Great tip. And what's the run out from when you come to the swim exit when we come in past this last buoy? Are there people? Is it onto a beach? Are you onto a pontoon, or how do you get out of the water? Or is it steps? Or
It steps onto the pier,
okay,
onto
great.
the dock there. And then depending on how many people are in the race and the way they've set it up, a lot of times the ground can be kind of rough, but they did cover it with like that green material.
Oh yeah, okay.
So that that was good. And then, you grab your bike bag and head to the t changing tent and, you know,
And is
put
this
your
much
bike
of a
stuff
run?
on.
Is this much of a run? This little dotted green line? Is it? It doesn't look that long. Is it a couple of hundred
No,
meters, or it's
it's not that long.
okay? Great,
It's not that long. And then when you get to your bike, it's good to just have a separate plain water bottle sitting there to kind of get the salt water taste out of your mouth.
brilliant tip. Another
Because you
tip as
might,
well. I would give for
yeah.
guys if it is a very current assisted swim. As I said, there's only one real place you can go wrong, and that is if you overshoot here a little. So for as I said, definitely if it's current assisted, just was it glide a lot more in case was it make sure you're taking advantage of current, but just don't overshoot your exit. So that's a tip for me. That's especially as well. It's applicable again in Ironman California as well, as in just make sure you don't go overcook it. You kind of, as you said, might be looking at the cameraman or you might be looking at the fish and you go, oops, because you don't want to swim against the current.
Well, and there could be a little current at that last turn when you pass the pier.
Yeah,
You could experience some there, but it's very short, so not much.
cool, excellent. All right, so it looks like it's a lovely swim. Let's go on to a bit of transition here. Oh, sorry, the cutoff again, if a lot of people are interested in this, it's a standard Ironman cutoff for the swim time, 2 hours, 20 minutes. But as Karen was saying, if you take advantage of that nice current and you stay focused, you won't have any problem with that.
Well, and I'll give you an idea. So I'm not that great of a swimmer. So normally my Ironman swim is like an hour 30 to an hour 45. I did it in an hour and 6 minutes.
Nice.
So
PB
it's
swim, of course.
yeah, and so
Slow.
a lot of people will seed themselves maybe back further, which is kind of the opposite of what usually happens, right? But there's plenty of room there in the ocean too. So if you find yourself not seated correctly, there's plenty of room to pass or to be passed. There was very little contact.
Yeah, that's unlike an Ironman swim. But again, I always tell people when there's people always get a bit confused about the self-seated, which we'll talk about in a second here, about like if it's current assisted, should I do in my predicted time or what I would do normally? I always tell guys and my girls, just assume there's no current and what would you expect to do it? So for yourself, Karen, I would say to you, seat yourself in the 90-minute corral because if everyone does that, you'll know what everyone knows what their on a good day swim would be, but you can't really take into account the current. So if everyone goes by that, you'll end up everyone will come out with a PB swim, but you'll all swim with swimmers that are roughly the same ability, which I think is what we're looking for. And I'm gonna pop onto. We talked a little bit about the swim crawl. I just want to make sure again for new people to Ironman racing, it's a very specific element of the way that they run the races, and they moved away from what they used to have mass starts. And you can Google or YouTube, like for example, mass start Nice Ironman or mass start Lanzarote Ironman. And you just see they used to just everyone whistle would go and everyone would pile in. It was very scary and it kept a lot of newbies out of the sport. So Ironman introduced what they call a seated swim start. And when you turn up on the day, you'll see big yellow signs that will go under 90 minutes, under 2 hours, under an hour, and I think they're broken by 10 minutes increments. And you put yourself in, as Karen correctly spoke about there, into where you expect to swim. So for me, I'm a 70-minute Ironman swim timer. So I put myself in the 70-minute corral. And how they use this self-seeding to actually have a very smooth flow of swimmers into the waters like this. This isn't Cozumel itself. This is one of the great pictures I picked from one of the other Ironmen I did. I just love it because it gives it really clear instruction. All the swimmers will start piling in here, but you will come to your gate people here. These are your volunteers, and by the way, say thank you to them because they've given up their time. And you will come here. You'll line up in these 3 or 4 kind of gates, as depending on the volume how they design it. And every kind of 6 seconds, a beep will go off. You'll literally hear a beep, and these guys will lift their arms up. And these guys have been let loose into the wild. They're off. They're excited. They're off swimming. But if you do, as you can see, instead of everyone all piling in and you've got could be 100 swimmers from this picture, we have people entering the water in a nice controlled fashion. Um, I find it much easier. It's helped a lot of kind of nervous swimmers have better days. And as we were talking about there, make sure you do seed yourself according to where you think you are going to finish their time, and don't worry about cutoff times and go, oh, I'm going to put myself in the at the top of the swim because I'm worried about cutoffs overall. All you'll do there is put yourself in with really strong swimmers who will swim over you. And more importantly, you'll lose the ability to draft off kind of swimmers of your own ability. Be honest in it. It helps you for a better day. Any other tips on that, actually, from a seeding point of view, Karen, or getting into the water?
No, that all sounds great. Yes.
Cool. Alrighty. So we're going to talk a little bit about the transition now. And again, this is, as Karen has already alluded to, there's a good bit of shuttling here and buses involved because you've got your swim start on one part here. You've got one part of your transition here and your bike, your swim to bike, and also you've got your bike to run. So it's what we call a split transition, and it does cause a little bit of additional logistics the day before. How did you find it, Karen? And what was any tips for the guys?
Well, the day before, you are responsible to getting yourself to the 2 different transitions to drop off your bags. So that's the taxi ride. Or if you've used one of the travel services, they might have a van that brings you there. But you're responsible during certain hours, to drop off your run bag and to go to the other location and drop off your bike bag.
Okay. So there's no shuttles in the. Okay, cool. That's good to know. Um, and in terms of the actual transition itself, as in you talked about it, the bike layout was a little bit creative. How was the run layout and all the rest? Is it kind of standard Ironman fare, or is there anything unusual about the T1 or T2?
Well, T2 is kind of interesting in that it's an underground parking lot below the Mega Mart.
Cool. Well, at least it'll be dry.
Well, no, if it rains, water gets in there too.
Okay.
And I should just mention that, in preparation, you're likely to get rained on that day. And it could be torrential, it could be light, but it rained both times, all 3 times I've been there. And one time on the bike, it was very torrential. But you sort of just had to laugh because it's not a cold rain
Yeah.
because it's hot and humid there. That's another thing. You should do some heat acclimation before you go there because it's going to be hot, it's going to be humid, and it's likely to rain. But you just sort of have to laugh and just deal with it. I I don't feel like it really slowed me down much, except the streets don't drain very well there. So you could be riding through some water on the
Okay.
bike, and you could be running through some water on the run as well.
Okay.
But
We'll talk about
anyway,
we'll talk about the
Yeah.
bike course in a minute. So, but brilliant call on the, if it is going to rain again, you have to pack accordingly in terms of your transition bags, and also bake in time that you have to get there the day before, drop off your blue bag here, your red bag here, and you will have, and they typically will bring the bags till the end, and where you pick up. I think around the finish line will be here, I presume, and you get your red and blue bag. So picking up at the end, I always find is easier, but it's actually just getting the layout in the morning. The first day is more difficult. We'll talk a little bit about, we've mentioned bags here, and people are sort of going, if they're new to Ironman triathlon, what are these guys talking about? Again, another specific element of Ironman racing is they have what they call clean transitions, where they don't. If you've done local domestic transition and you have your bike and you have your wetsuit and your runners and all your bits, but they don't do that. They keep everything in. We use a blue bag and a red bag system, where the blue bag is you will pick up in T1 because it is your swim to bike bag. Um, I talk about here about what's going to be in there. Your helmet's going to be in there, your sunglasses, your bike shoes, etc. And as part of your transition, you will take your wetsuit. Oh, you actually won't take your wetsuit off here. Good point, Karen. You'll put your goggles and your cap in here, and you'll take out your helmet and your bike shoes, and that will be you on your way after you pick up the bike, get to the mountain line. And a lot of people panic over what to put in the bag, what not to put in the bag. I have a video here that outlines in the comments below that shows you exactly shows you what I put in my bags, and I show you how I pack my bags, etc. So that will help you. Um, your tip there, Karen. What else would you advise specifically at Cozumel? Obviously, maybe a light rain jacket. Anything else that you'd say based on your experience?
Well, no, you don't really wear a rain jacket because it's warm.
Okay,
So you don't really need a rain jacket. You're going to get wet, period. One suggestion would be in case it does rain on the bike, you want to make sure you have, if you wear socks, dry socks in your run bag.
big time.
And if it rains and you're on the run, whatever you use, the kind of socks that you use that are good for, not getting blisters. There's different socks and different products that you can use on your feet. But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of dry socks in both T1 and T2 bags. From the sounds of it, they won't be dry very long. But again, you're correctly pointing out that what you're trying to avoid there is blisters, especially for the run, as nothing's going to be worse than a marathon with a blister foot. I actually put a good layer of Vaseline on my feet in
Mhm.
T2 as well, just because I had suffered from blisters in the past, and it's the worst thing ever. But no, that's a good call there. The other bag, by the way, that's sitting down here is their orange bag, is your personal needs bag, which you can pick up on a specific part of the bike course. In it, you can put um, specific food if you want, if you think you might need a dry cleanse. But this is the personal needs bag. You actually have to, they're numbered, and you'll have to call in, and you have to stop on the bike course, and you have to call out your number, and the volunteers get it. Do you get your guys to use personal need bags at all, or have you used personal needs bags? Any recommendations?
Yes, I do recommend them. And most of the time, I don't need to use them, but it's always good to have it there just in case. On the bike, I think on the second loop is when you have access to it, but I didn't stop for it because they didn't have enough volunteers that year to be pulling bags, and
Yeah,
I could see it was going to take a long time, maybe to have to stop and get it myself and get out what I wanted there. But it's good to have, extra nutrition in there. Maybe you have an extra cartridge and tube or, whatever you think you might need there. And then you have access to it also on the run. But you don't get those bags back, your
yeah,
special needs bags.
agreed. So yeah, key thing there is don't put your favorite rain jacket in there, or but like with your iPhone because you want to take a selfie middle course. It's not going to work. No, absolutely great tip there. I'm again me. I've only ever packed a personal needs bag once. I've never used it in kind of the 10 Ironman I've done. As I said, I tend to be more reliant on the normal aid stations we'll talk about in a second. It's again, but a lot of people swear by them. It's a personal choice. But good to know that. And we'll talk about where you can pick that up. Hope you're enjoying the video, guys. By the way, if you are, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in these reviews or other triathlon content, please follow me on the YouTube channel. Just hit the subscribe button there, and I can guarantee you more content. And by hitting thumbs up, you're saying thank you to Karen for sharing her time, which we all greatly appreciate. Okay, so bike course. We have a 3-loop course around the island of Cozumel. What road surface, good, closed roads. What's your lasting memories of it, or any tips for it there, Karen?
I remember the road surface as being very good. Um, it is 3 loops around, um, and it can be very windy, so no discs, wheels are allowed. You are in aero most of the time, so I would practice being in aero position a lot. I would also practice continuous pedaling because it's totally flat, so there's not really any coasting
Yep.
to speak of. So just kind of get used to that in your training. Um, when you get to the other side of the island, so you kind of head south and around on the other side, and that's where you might experience the heavy crosswinds. But that's not to say there might not be headwinds, on other sections of it. And I remember it being totally closed.
Fantastic.
Um, there might have been an occasional, because that's like the only road, occasional local person, but they tend to stay off the road. I don't remember any traffic at all other than, like race personnel on
Okay.
motorcycles and maybe a sag wagon.
So
Um, it's very fast. And I would say the whole Cozumel course is very fast because of the swim, because of the bike being flat and the run being flat as well. So you could potentially have a PR there.
nice. It does sound good. So good road surface, nice and flat. Can be windy, so therefore it was a choose your equipment wisely. But definitely a TT bike course from the sounds of things. If it's completely flat and fast, but just no disc wheel, yeah.
Correct. I TT bike for sure.
Fantastic, cool. And as you said, get used to getting in the aero position, continuous cycling as well as much as possible. So you're very comfortable riding aero. Cool. I like it.
And just one more thing I'd say, just, be aware, even though the road is closed, there might be an occasional stray dog. Um, so, just be on the lookout. I had one cross in front of me closer to town. And, people were kind of trying to yell to get the dog out of the way, and nobody hit the dog, but there could be a
it's a
stray
hazard.
dog.
It's a very specific hazard. And by the way, I thought that my dogs were actually going to join in there because was the girlfriend's just arrived home and they're going to start barking like mad. So I thought that would have been almost like a cool plant. And here's an example of a dog barking. No, great tips. It does sound like a flat, fast course. The cutoff for the bike and the swim and T1 is 10 and a half hours. But again, as I said, if you've done your training, work on your nutrition and pace it well, um, that shouldn't be a problem. By the way, again, one of the key tips I always tell my guys, especially on a flat, fast course, you're just looking at the numbers going, wow, I'm going to PR this course. You've got to remember your nutrition. You've got to nail down and also, as you said, if it starts raining, you're not thinking too because you're a little bit cooler than you would be if it was just hot and humid. Make sure you've set up your Garmin or your whatever fitness wearable you have for your alerts in terms of and stick to your nutrition strategy. We talk a little bit about that in the last few slides, but and especially in the last 10, 15 miles, people kind of ease off nutrition. That's the biggest mistake you'll make because at that point you're actually fueling for the marathon. Yes, you may have banked a PR bike split, useless if you're going to end up was it having a longer run split than the bike split. Any other hints and tips on the bike course, Karen?
No, just adding to the nutrition and hydration, you really want to be careful about getting enough electrolytes in too, because it is hot and humid.
Absolutely. Cool. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about hydration. Again, very Ironman specific, but Ironman has this typical aid station where you will come in and there is an area you can chuck You guys call it trash, us Europeans call it rubbish at the beginning and the end. And if you don't throw rubbish anywhere else on the course and see by Marshall, you will get DQ'd because you've been rude and you don't you're a guest in this country. Follow the rules. They typically will have water. Mortal hydration, we believe, is going to be the drink in Cozumel. They've changed. Ironman has changed from Gatorade Endurance, which is used for years. It's now precision hydration in Europe, but possibly was it mortal hydration in Cozumel. You'll get food and bananas and snacks. They tend to have local delicacies as well. Wouldn't try them. Morton gels, mortal hydration, water. Um, and the volunteers will hand out those two. The Ironman aid stations. Oh, and the aid stations on the course, there's roughly one every 12 and a half kilometers. So you've got one at 20, 30, 43, 55, la la la. Top tip, write them down, print them off, write it on, put it on the stem of your bike. So when you're thinking when's the next aid station, you don't need to think. It's actually there for you. And the personal needs bag that Karen was talking about is at 97 kilometers on the course, and you can get that, I believe, just the once.
I was
Anything
just
on?
going to say on the bike course, when you come into town, the crowd support is amazing. I mean, they have bands playing. The whole community comes out to really cheer all the bikers on. So it's kind of nice because it's kind of lonely out there on the other side of the island. And you come into town and everybody is cheering you on. And, you get to see that several times, obviously, with the 3 laps.
And your average pace and your heart rate goes up, and you go, oh no. But we'll take whatever lift we can. Brilliant call on that one. And just in terms of again, the aid stations again is a very specific skill on Ironman about how to use this correctly. And myself and Karen, we've got a couple of Ironman under our belt. We could talk about it till the cows come home. But rather than do that, we'll keep a focus on Cozumel. There's a video where I show demos. I give you do's, don'ts on how to handle an aid station and how to interact with volunteers, how to actually replace bottles, etc. That video is in the comments below. Make sure you check it out. It will help you a lot come race day because that aid stations are so necessary for your nutrition strategy, but they can also be a really hazardous place if you don't know what you're doing. There's people moving into the aid volunteers, there's people dropping bottles. It just need to be very clear on what to do and what not to do. Check out the video. Right, so we are back into our second transition area, which is now our red bag. And we do they have bike catchers, or we have to rack our own bike in Cozumel?
No, they don't have bike catchers. And a lot of the volunteers are young people at the aid stations and that as well. So, um, you know, be polite to them and thank them, like you said. But no bike catchers. You rack your own bike when you go underground to the underground parking lot. And, it's all still labeled, numbered bikes. So, and it's pretty straightforward getting through there, getting your bag, and going through the changing tent and getting out on the run course. It's pretty straightforward.
Cool, excellent. And for this time, as I said, last time was a blue bag. This time it is our red bag, which is our bike to run bag. In this, you're chucking your helmet, your bike shoes, you're putting on your runners. Karen, what's your top tip for a T2, for a fast T2? What do you tell your guys?
Practice it.
Perfect.
Keep it.
It's something that athletes don't do, as in they fixate on the bike, the swim, and all the rest, and then they could lose 20 minutes in transition because they kind of just don't know what they're trying to do. No, absolutely. What's your second biggest tip? I'm going to put you on the spot here and have to tap
Keep
into all
it
that knowledge.
simple. Keep it simple.
Brilliant.
Um, Practicing it, keeping it simple. Um, you know, Hopefully you're not changing, that obviously will save you time. You tend to get a little relaxed sometimes when you go through the changing tents.
Yeah.
Just before you get there, before you get off the bike, kind of rehearse in your mind your plan of what you're going to do. And even how you put your stuff in your bag, like if you're going to put on fresh socks, have them opened up, rolled in your
Yeah.
shoes, ready to put on. And a lot of times there will be people there to help you. And they'll ask you, do you want help? Say, yes, can you get me this? Can you get me that?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so get you out of there quicker. But that's
Yeah.
all I would say.
No, absolutely. And again, as one of my athletes, I'm trying to make it into a catchphrase, but I definitely think he goes, nothing good happens in T2. And he's right. As I said, like if you sit down and you start taking your time, you start going, oh, and you start thinking about the enormity of it to run a marathon, things cramp up. Whereas as I get my guys to have, like, for example, the sunglasses and a gel in their cap. So rather than taking out a gel, putting the sunglasses on the cap, they take it out and they start running with it towards the exit. And by the time they've actually got the sunglasses on, the cap on, and they've eaten the gel, they've already covered like 500 meters. You go, actually, I'm moving, I'm improving. So, no, I agree with you. Just keep it simple, smooth, and keep moving forward. And I'm gonna remind you of your other tip. Your dry socks again are a godsend in T2.
Yeah, just grab and go that hat and race belt. No need to stand there like you said and put it all on. Do it as you're running out.
Exactly. Because the more steps forward, the closer you are to the finish line, and the cold beers and the celebrations, which we'll talk a little bit about now. The run course, 3 loops, flat as a pancake. What's
Hmm.
your lasting memories of the run course?
Yes, that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. It's flat. Um, Again, if it rained, you could run into sections where the rain water hadn't drained and might be up to your ankles. Sometimes you can go to the side and kind of avoid that. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
You said it got a bit quiet up here. Like you said, down here is a bit more party time, and this is a bit quieter.
Yeah,
Or is there?
and it is a closed course, so there's no traffic. But there are people that could be crossing,
Yeah.
and there tends to be a lot of partying the later you get, so you got to kind of watch for those people that might be crossing. But they are all cheering you on, especially downtown, and that gets a little quieter as you go towards the end of the turnaround there. Yeah, but there's a lot of people pretty much a lot of the way.
Cool. Yep. Pancake flat. And what's the road surface? Is it tarmac, asphalt, concrete? What
It's
are you running on
it's
these?
road.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
road. There might have been one small trail section, if I remember right, but no, I think it's all road.
Okay, cool. So it looks like a good again. If we fueled right, and again, fueling on the marathon as well is also key. Fuel right in the bike, pace the bike right, and not run. The could it definitely looks like a PR course. The fuel stations again, there's one every kilometer or so on the course, so you're never short of access to isotonic drink, cola, Morton gels, water, etc. And the same rules apply, folks. You only throw litter in at the beginning or the end of the aid station. Otherwise, you're just being a dick. Excuse my language. I try to emphasize this, and you can get disqualified for it. It's one of the most stupid reasons to get disqualified for an Ironman race.
Well, I was just going to say, and I hope Cozumel has kind of tightened up on this. So the water that they hand out, it's not in cups. It's
Okay.
in like a plastic container. Um, and so you grab the plastic container, and I saw too many people just like take 2 sips and then throw the container. You can maybe hold on to it. And there was a lot of trash thrown in the non-trash areas. So I'm hoping that Cozumel's kind of tightened up on that.
Yeah, no, it's a bugbear for myself. No, definitely. And another thing with the Ironman, my other tip to guys on the run is never miss an aid station, as in they're there, even if you're just taking on board a little bit of water, a little bit of Coke. You don't have to try and eat something or take big gulps of something. At each aid station, you can use it for heat management in terms of pouring water down the front of your tri suit, etc. Um, just make sure that you do. And I always say, look, you paid a big fee to Iron Man, you can make your money back in Morton gels because they're like $8 a pop if you eat a load of them. Maybe you make some of your race entry fee back.
Yeah,
Uh, any other tips for the run course itself? Was it?
not that I can think of. I thought of something on the swim course. Can I mention that now
Oh
too?
God, yeah, it's all about information sharing.
So there's no chance to warm up in before you start the swim. You're just lining up in the corrals, and so there's no warm up. I just wanted to mention that because a lot of times people want to know that.
What I my tip on that is actually back to your point when you said make sure you have some hydration handy and rest. I always get my guys have a bottle ready, and even if it is the case you don't get it, just even pouring a little bit down the water, the wetsuit, splash a bit in your face. It's not ideal, but it just gets a little bit of that, takes away from that initial shock when you hit the water. So that'd be my top tip. All right. Okay. So finish. Swim, T1, bike, T2, and run. You've got 17 hours to get it done. As
Mhm.
Karen was saying, if you do it right, it looks like it's a PR course, so hopefully it won't be a problem. And this is what the finish line looks like. As he said, it looks like they're already starting the party early, even for a winner here. Good finish line, good party atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, the whole community, volunteers, they come out to cheer you on, even until the bitter end. And the announcer at the finish, they do it both in Spanish and in English. And I should mention that also the athlete briefings are in English and Spanish.
Great, great. Yeah, well, we'll talk a little bit about the race day timetable there, where we tie that. Just some other considerations, as myself and Karen have mentioned these. We've talked about how important nutrition is. There's a video in the comments below if you're looking for hints and tips about how to refine your strategy there. Packing, especially again, and Karen's top tip about flying into the right area. Make sure you do your logistics planning and use this. There's a packing video here and also handy downloadable packing checklist. I also have this is where myself and Karen I get field all the calls, all the emails, the phone calls when people start to taper, as in the 2 weeks beforehand or the 1 week, depending on your plan. Where you ease off the training and allow your body to like a coiled spring. This is when athletes suddenly tell me that their legs are falling off or they're getting unfit and they're suddenly losing all the fitness. It's just taper madness. The video explains how to handle it. And some last minute tips, back to again, like even said Karen's tip about knowing where the best place to fly into, what your making sure you know your logistics about shuttle buses and making sure you know where the talk to people, read the athlete's guide, these sort of things will help you set yourself up for race day success. Right, so the timetable, and sorry, this is not attractive looking on the screen. It's very in your face, but the key thing I tend to look for in the Thursday, Friday timetables when you can check in. What was the athlete check-in? Was there anything specific that you remember, Karen, that to advise the guys or?
No, it's downtown at the convention center. And, you know, they, s- I'm not sure if they're still having like time check-in where you need to select your check-in time. They did the times that I did it, but a lot of it was right after COVID,
Oh,
and
yes.
yeah, but they did have specific times that you were to check in. It was pretty smooth, I do it as soon as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I That's something big tip I tell my guys, get out early, get it out of the way, because the expos and all the rest are very exciting, but they can drain you of two things. One of energy, because you're looking around and looking at, oh, he's taller, he's faster looking than I am, which is probably not in the day, but it can also drain your credit card. As in, just be careful about going into Ironman, coming a load of merch and wondering where you've dropped $800 for like two t-shirts, a pair of bibs, and a hoodie. So minimize your accountant will appreciate it. The as I said, the free tech buy support, as you said, that's a great tip. If you go to the validated hotels only, that's a fantastic benefit as well, because a lot of things, especially with traveling bikes on planes, etc., something that always goes wrong. Um,
They did sell cartridges at the expo, but there is a bike shop there too, and some of the bike tech people maybe had them for you to buy also, because you can't fly with your
yes,
cartridges.
yeah, no, I'm feeling that question a lot with like at the forums I'm on about, can I bring a CO2 canister on? Yeah, actually, annoyingly enough, in Europe, it's very hit and miss. It depends on the airline, depends on the airport, it depends on the security guard. So I just go, don't take the risk. It's like $5 when you get over there, and then leave them at the end. I saw something in Kona which I thought I really liked, as in what Kona they allow you to recycle them, as in like, or they'll buy them back off you if you haven't used them,
Yes,
which I thought was fantastic. Because
yes.
otherwise I'm always leaving these CO2 canisters, which is a good sign. I mean, they didn't get a puncture in my race, but I'm leaving them in hotels, going and handing them to like the room service person. They go like, "What is this?" Um, but okay, so in terms of as you said, there's athlete briefings and check-ins. There's athlete briefing in English and in Spanish. The check-in itself, the day before the race. Oh, the practice swim. Now this is last year's timetable, by the way, flagging it off. That you can actually have that practice swim you mentioned, and that's at the Kanabe Park. Um,
Chacanum.
okay. Sorry, that's an Irish person trying to pronounce a Mexican word. Never was going to work out. Um, and then, as you said as well, with the logistics, you're right about the really good point that you have to work out how you're going to get your red bag to your transition area to T2, how you're going to get your blue bag to T1, and you can do that when you're doing your practice swim, etc. Any other tips for the guys in terms of the logistics, Karen?
Well, most people don't rent a car. Usually the taxis are fine and there's plenty of them. So I wouldn't rent a car.
Okay. Taxis are good. Cool. And then the big day, as I said, oh no, that we are transition opens at 5:20 at 6:30 until 6:30. A race kicks off at oh yeah, sorry, the transition opens up. That's where then you have to go. Then you're saying you have to get the shuttle bus to the swim start, which is further away again. And then your starting age groupers will be 7:10. Any other hints and tips for guys on the race morning? You had a couple of good ones in there already.
Just give yourself plenty of time, a little more than you think you need, based on getting, from your hotel to Chakanab and then getting on another and going to your bike to do whatever you want to do at your bike, then getting on the shuttle that takes you to the start. It just takes a little more time than you would think.
No, brilliant. And again, anything in triathlon and Ironman where it can be solved with a bit of time. So, but what can't be if you can stress yourself to the eyeballs by sort of leaving the last minute, you miss the last shuttle and you got to kind of get there. Too much time has been invested not to give it a little bit of planning. Listen, Karen, it has been absolutely fabulous talking to you. I, on behalf of all the watchers, it's been, thank you ever so much for sharing your experience. It does sound like an absolute iconic race for the guys who are watching it, who are prepping for it. I hope you have a great day out there. For the guys who are gals who are thinking about it, I don't know about you, but Karen has sold me on it. PB swim, PB bike, and I just have to hold it together on the run. Fantastic. And I've left Karen's email there in case you do want to ping her some questions. She's a very generous lady with her time, and as I said, very knowledgeable and great coach. So please do reach out for a tour if you're keen on asking more Cosmo questions. Karen, any last minute hints or tips or?
No, thanks so much. It's really a great race, and fun to vacation there afterwards because it is a beautiful spot.
Are you sure you don't work for the Mexican Tourist Board? Because you've definitely sold me. I
You
just
know,
have
the
to
biggest
make the girlfriend watch this video.
the biggest things are the possibility of a lot of wind on the bike and rain. Those are the biggest things. But other than that, it's a fast race.
We're triathletes. All we're hearing is PB and PRP. That's all we like. I don't mind if I get wet. I'm normally covered in sweat, tears, and my life regret anyhow. Karen, we will wrap it up there. It's been absolutely fabulous. Thank you ever so much again for your time. You've been an absolute gem. Have a great day.